Okay, I'm sorry, we got to wrap this up because they only gave me 30 minutes. I can't give you 5 of them. Is that all right? Oh, okay. Ladies, I'm going to temporarily welcome you back to the year 2017. Can y'all come on back to 2017? Let me say this. I had a chance to meet some wonderful women just now in that couple of minutes. Did you? Yes. Did you? Did you have to correct sometimes what they said? We had to correct. I had to do a little bit of correction because I heard I'm this person and I do this, and by the year 2020 I plan to have 5,000 members. And I said, no, it is 2020. I need you to say, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, and I have grown my membership to 5,000. You have to live that every single day. Be in that place where you want to be. See yourself there. Now, I can tell you that it works because you heard from Mary, I was born and raised in Washington, D.C. I was born in a neighborhood and lived in the same house that my parents brought me home from the hospital in. I was just there last night. I was in AARP, so you can go ahead and add that up. A long, long time. In that home, that family home where my parents raised us 5 children, we only had 3 bedrooms. That's 7 people, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. So I always slept with somebody until I became 23 years of age. That somebody was my sister. We were both queen size, sleeping in a full-size bed. And when I looked at my future, I had the audacity, and I came to this maybe 15 years, no longer than that, 25 years ago, the audacity to say, I'd like to have a home that I love in a city that I love for each season of the year. Wow. The audacity. So this is what I'm telling you. Start where you want to be. Take the future part first. Then you work your way back and say, what happened next? And you count it back. So how is that going to happen? How does a girl who never slept in the bed by herself until she was 23 own 4 houses that she loves in 4 cities for each season of the year? So I decided, everything's an experience. If you just keep your antennas up, it'll come. I went to my first bed and breakfast 22 years ago. Didn't know what a bed and breakfast was. And I went there with my husband and some friends. It was Christmas time. And I said, this is so nice. We were in Cape May, New Jersey, on the Jersey Shore. Somebody knows Cape May? Okay. And I said, wow. So these people own this house. They live upstairs. We're paying $200 a night to sleep in this one room, and there's somebody next door, and somebody's down the hall, and they're having a good time, and they like to decorate, they like to cook, they like to meet people. I was like, that's me. This is supposed to be me. So I decided that's how I'm going to have these 4 homes that I love in the 4 cities that I love each season of the year. So I just put that back here somewhere, kept it here at all times, and saw a dilapidated mansion in my Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn neighborhood. In Bed-Stuy, in Brooklyn in the house? No Brooklyn? Oh yeah, poor, okay. And saw this dilapidated mansion, and I thought, that could be a bed and breakfast. When I tell you dilapidated, I'm telling you this is all the kids called it the haunted house. So I started leaving notes under the door. If you're interested in selling, please call. I did that for like 3 years. And then finally, I drove by and I saw a man standing in the yard, very unassuming. I've never seen anyone. I walked up to him and I said, have you been getting the notes that I've been putting under the door? He said, yours and everybody else's. I said, well, I really, and we talked, and I said, could I just come in and take a look? He said, no, it's really a mess, and we had a fire, and he went through this whole thing. I said, listen, I have vision, let me see it, please, please. I went in, I said, would you be interested in selling it? He said, well, I just listed it with the realtor. I said, what realtor? He said, you got to talk to the man with the real estate office on the corner. I said, okay. We walked out the door. The man was walking up the street. I went running over. I said, he said, I open at 9 o'clock. I'm right here. I said, I'm coming. I got there at 9 o'clock in the morning. I said, let's make this happen. Didn't know how it's going to happen. Let's make it happen. We were in contract for 3 years because, we're going to talk about finances later, right, Mary? This gentleman had lived there all of his life. His parents were both deceased. They had 8 children in their family. The parents left. They did have a will, which is wonderful. They left the home to their 8 children, never named them. So therefore, that became 18 children who wanted to be part of the claim. So that became tricky. Bought the mansion, restored it, called it a Quaba Mansion Bed and Breakfast. 21 years ago. So I've been making eggs and making beds and making memories for 21 years. So that's place number 1. New York, for my New Yorkers, I like to be there in the fall. I would come back home all the time to D.C., see my family. I said, this is home. I want to be in D.C. When do I want to be in D.C.? I want to be in D.C. in the spring. Start going out every time I came to visit, meet with real estate agents, looking, and found the bed and breakfast. It was already an existing B&B at DuPont Circle. My daddy, the same one who looked at me like I was crazy with the mansion in Brooklyn, he said, we don't live on that side of town. I said, who don't live on that side of town? We can really live on that side of town. What are you talking about? Bought the place in DuPont Circle. I think that's now 14 years old. Then we did Cape May, New Jersey. So let me go back down to Cape May, because I think that water is healing, right? Really, stress is water soluble. So went back to Cape May, ended up buying the same brown bed and breakfast that we stayed in for the first time, coming full circle. And then I said to my husband, because you gotta bring him along. No, really, sometimes there's going to be people who believe in you, but they don't see it, right? So you have to get them to come along, right? So I remember waking up in the middle of the night, and I shared the full picture, because I hadn't really shared the full picture. Sometimes you got to, piecemeal it. It becomes too much. You like concentrate, like orange juice. You add water, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. It started in a little can like this, turned up to a big old pitcher. So I told my husband one night, I said, listen, we got these 2 places. Here's what I'm really thinking. Wouldn't it be amazing if we had a place that we love for each season of the year? He was like, I said, come on now, stay with me. So we have this place, Where would you want to be when it's cold? Because we got to work on winter, right? He said, well, I like New Orleans. I said, I like it too. I go there every year with the Essence Music Festival. I said, that sounds good. So I started looking in New Orleans. We bought the bed and breakfast in New Orleans, just outside the French Quarter. Now here's the thing. When you plan this future and you look with this vision of what you want, it doesn't always work out the way you saw it. Okay? So with the place in New Orleans, we opened up 4th of July during the Essence Music Festival. I open all of my businesses the 4th of July. I will wait 2 months if I have to. Because on the 4th of July, that is my personal declaration of my independence. So it means something to me. So we go and we open that place up 4th of July. Now, if anybody can think back, 4th of July, and I got to get the year in my head. I can't remember the year right now. That's what happens when you're in AARP magazine. You can't remember. At any rate, what I can tell you is we opened July 4th weekend, and a month and a half later, we got an uninvited guest that checked in. Who was it? Katrina showed up. She didn't have no reservation. She just showed up. I had just left the day before the storm came, and I didn't know New Orleans. So I'm watching it on television, and they're like, the ninth ward, or is it the ninth ward? Okay, the ninth ward. I was like, "Ooh, thank God I'm not in the ninth ward." Somebody said, "Yeah, you in the ninth ward." I said, "What? You kidding me?" So I'm watching this. We got maps. We're trying to see what we can see, and then I get a telephone call from with Associated Press. It was Associated Press. All the media, they were looking to find a place to set up offices because they were going to be there for a while. So they called and said, "We're wondering if you would be interested in letting us use your bed and breakfast as our headquarters." And I said, "That'd be amazing, but I'm not there, and I don't know even if my building is there." He said, "Well, when I get there," because the commercial flights weren't going yet, "when I get there, I'll stop by and I'll call you and tell you what I see." I got the telephone call, I'll never forget, it was Labor Day weekend. And he said, "Well, I'm here, I'm standing in front of your beautiful inn." I said, did you say beautiful? He said, "Oh yeah, it's very nice. It's it looks good. Everybody's having a good time." I said, "Everybody? What are you talking about?" "Oh no, they're swimming and having a cookout." I'm like, we don't have any guests. We're not open." He said, "Well, I think it may be some neighbors trying to make the best of a bad situation." Now I'm even more panicked because they're in the pool and they're having a cookout. I don't know what's going on inside the house. Everything was fine when we finally got there on the first commercial flight going in, and we went down with a reporter from the New York Times, wanted to kind of follow our journey returning back. If you go back in New York Times front page, you'll see a picture of me looking like this. Because he had made me think everything was fine. Everything couldn't be fine. We had to crawl in the window to get in the house because there was a tree across the porch. We couldn't get in the front door. It could have been worse, but it wasn't fine. So that was a real example of when I had to take beyond the whole old adage of creating lemonade from lemons. I learned how to make lemon meringue pie. I absolutely did. I started with calling the various insurance companies. I said, who needs to be here? Insurance adjusters. So I called all the insurance companies, and I started to house their adjusters who were coming in to do work. I said, who else needs to be here? So you can sit there. Here's my thing. I give myself a pity party when I'm the only one invited because I don't believe in putting my burdens on somebody else. I give myself a pity party. It is a short cocktail reception. That's all it is. And then you get busy. And you do what we do best. We know how to make something out of nothing. We know how to do that. We have to know how to pivot. We twirl all the way around. We don't pivot, we twirl, okay? That we have that. And when times get tough, we have to remember that and get smart about how to pivot and make a way when we think there's no way. So we finally sold the bed and breakfast in New Orleans because it was a stressful situation for 5 years with no guests. All the taxes went through the roof because all the population had left. Every insurance person wanted to drop you or triple your premium. All of that happened. And so once we finally sold it, I was like, whew. I wanted to put the white flag, surrender, and it's done. My husband was relieved because he didn't think we should have done it in the first place. And so we were there. And then I had a guest who came to stay with me at the Brooklyn Bed and Breakfast. And I never get single male guys unless they're traveling on business. This guy was just lounging around by himself, and I was like, what brings you this way? And he said, oh, well, actually, I was hoping you'd be here. And he told me about a hillside manor. This is in the Poconos. Anybody ever heard of Hillside Manor? Okay. He told me about the Hillside Manor. He had just come back from a men's spiritual retreat. And he said that they were in trouble, probably going to get foreclosed on, and that we could not lose this in our community because the Hillside Manor was the oldest continuously operating black-owned resort in the country. A judge from Brooklyn and his wife started the Hillside Manor when we were in segregation. It was beautiful, okay? I fell in love with the backstory, and I said, well, I can't be a part of it because I don't have the money. How many of us do that? Stop ourselves? I said, oh, no, I'm stretched, I'm done, I can't. He's like, well, we had the money. We just need the expertise. Won't you come with us? I said, absolutely. I was backing myself up, right? So I told my next door neighbor about going up to take a look. He said, well, he's a real estate agent. He said, let me get some comps so that when you go, you at least know how much real estate goes for, what land goes for. He pulled a comp on this amazing property. I kid you not, ladies, when it came over on the internet, all of a sudden I got a hot flash, just whew, whew. And I said, wow. And I called that night. It was 11 o'clock at night. I knew no one would answer. I called the realtor and I said, I need to see this tomorrow because I'm about to buy something else and I don't want to make a mistake. I need to see this first. Of course, he didn't call me back. I called. The secretary finally got sick of me and she said, here's his cell number. Just call him. I called him. He said, oh, I'm so sorry, but we have to first look at your bank financials and we need to make, I said, just to take a look? I've never heard of a pre-qualification to look. And he said, well, it takes 3 hours to go through this property. The mansion itself is 25,000 square feet. Then we got a 10,000 square feet recreational facility. Then we got a 5,000 square feet carriage house. Then we got 22 acres of land. Wow. Yeah, we need to know we're dealing with a serious potential buyer. I said, well, I'm serious. Can you look at my website? This is what he said, ma'am, I know what you're saying, but yeah, we need to see the bank statement. I was like, yeah, okay. I don't know how to figure that one out. You don't want to really see that, do you? So we go up there, we look at the Hillside Manor. My husband already knows that the guy said no, but I tell him, can we just drive by? Could you just stay with me, just drive by? So I get out and I'm looking in the window. He said, somebody gonna come out with a shotgun. I'm telling you right now, I'm staying right here in the car. I'm looking all around and you just know. You just know. You don't know how, but you just know. So we leave there, we get about 15 minutes away, and I see this bed and breakfast in the corner called the Settlers Inn. And I think, I met the owner of this place. I remember the name of this place. That's why networking is so important. So I remember I met this lady who owns it at a conference. So of course I just tell my husband I gotta use the bathroom. Pull over, let me go run in here. They'll let me use their bathroom. He stays in the car, I go inside, I ask for her, she comes out, she goes, oh my God, what are you doing up here? Up here is a place I had never known before, really. I said, well, I told her the story. She said, well, who was the realtor? I said, Tim Meagher. She goes, M-E-A-G-H-E-R? I said, yes. She goes, Meir, Tim Meir. She goes, I used to change his diapers. Hold on a second. Tim, I need you to show Miss Greenwood the property. Tim? Oh, Wednesday? Can you come back Wednesday? Tim, she'll be there on Wednesday. End of story. No bank records shown, thank the Lord. He was right. It took 3 hours and a little bit more. And when we were done, he goes to shake my hand and he says, well, thank you for coming, and he gives me his card. I said, we're not going to go back to your office, or this is it? He said, well, what are you going to say? Full price close in 60 days, no contingencies? And I said, basically. And he jumped in his late model BMW. I jumped into my beat-up Jeep Wrangler and started to follow him. But as soon as I got in the car, what did I do? I started beating myself up. I said, why did you say that? You're the one he was worried about. You know you don't have money. You know. I mean, I was beating myself up left and right. And then a song came on the radio. And I know you're going to hear about having a theme song in a bit. Song came on the radio. It was Beyonce. Anybody know what the song might have been? I don't even know the name of the song. This is how bad I am. It's the one part of the song that she was singing that resonated with me. And it wasn't to the left. Guess what it was? You must not know about me. You must not know about me. I sang that song to the top of my lungs, all the way down to Hill to his office. By the time I got in there, I was so fired up. Rev, I was like you this morning, Rev. I walked in there, I was like, let's do this. I wrote out a check for $5,000. I said, this is a good pay, good, now don't cash it. And then I went to work to figure out how do we make that happen? How do we make that happen? Guess what? Came back with my husband, we were ready to go into contract. We started walking across the field. We were buying it from the owners of an assisted living facility that owned the whole thing, and they were subdividing it. It had been dilapidated and abandoned for 14 years. It looked, I should have had a little slide thing. You wouldn't believe the before and after. For real, you wouldn't. And so the whole problem was, y'all don't have this problem here, right? Y'all got septic, y'all don't have septic systems, right? You do. See, I didn't know about that. I just flush a toilet. I didn't know about that. So they couldn't get the system because the land didn't perk and all the stuff that I learned that I didn't need to know. Well, we started walking and the ground starts to get soggy. And it's not because I lost a heel. And we get over there and the DEP guy says their septic system, assisted living facility, has failed. The seller says, well, we can't sell it because we may need this permit that was predicated on my sale to get a new septic system for their own use. So the deal was off. I felt devastated. But let me tell you, I did not feel defeated. I had made a homemade apple pie for Mr. Tim Meir. I now knew how to say his name. I gave him this pie. It was like a peace offering. We get ready to do this deal. He called me a couple of days later. He said, I'm so sorry, but I have to tell you, my family loved that pie. Guess what? No lie. I sent Mr. Tim Meir homemade apple pie every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, and for his birthday every year for 3 years. 3 years later, I got a telephone call from Mr. Tim Meir, and he said, the sellers have worked out their septic issue, and they want me to put it back on the market next week, and I wanted to call you first. Guess what? It was 2 weeks after we sold the New Orleans property. Guess what? Sister girl had a few coins in her pocket. It was 2008. Y'all know what happened in 2008. So I said to him, I said, you know, I have excellent credit. I brag it, but you know, there's a commercial where the woman puts her foot up on the table and all that because that's me. Because I was raised by a daddy who said, if you can't afford it, you don't buy it. I didn't know what credit was because he was like, what credit? No credit. You don't get any credit. All right? So I maintain, I love that Credit Karma, whatever. I check that thing every week. I do. When I don't have no money, I'm kind of go, but you got an 840 score. And you don't owe nobody nothing. So, went in there and I said, you know, I don't care if I have great credit. Banks aren't lending because they just got burned. This is a tough time, right? I said, so we can do this, but we're going to have to talk about this price. He said, well, what should I offer? I said, like half of what I offered before. And he got real quiet. He said, well, I'll call you back and let you know what they say. Called me back the next day. He said, they took it. I want you to know that I bought what I told you, 25,000 square foot mansion that was owned by the Woolworths. Now you have to remember, the last thing that my grandmother said to me, and she lived to be 101, she said, I remember when I couldn't sit at the counter at Woolworths. Now my baby girl is all up in her mansion. And I told you what this palatial space looks like. I'm going to tell you the part that makes your jaw drop. $500,000. $500,000. Now I had to put millions into it to get it to where it is. But $500,000. The safe man that I'm married to, he said, well, what? I'm like, even if we put a new roof on it and make sure it doesn't leak. This is about legacy. I know my financial people are going to talk about that. This is about legacy. We've got to leave something for our children so that they don't start at square one. So that's been my journey. I believe that I'm the most blessed person I know, but I haven't met you yet. You're blessed too. We all are. We have to take advantage of those opportunities. I never thought that I'd go back and work for somebody again. I've owned my business for 21 years. I had the best job any woman, black or white, could have as editor-in-chief of Essence magazine. That was a publication that sat on my coffee table. It was my mirror. I could hold it up. It was a reflection of who I was as a black woman. And that's what I aspired to do, and I made that happen for me with a lot of belief and faith in other people. And so then I got the call from Howard University. I saw some other Howard people, associations, right? I saw Mo was teaching at Howard. I saw somebody's history in the program. I saw that. Okay, fantastic. And they said, John H. Johnson, we talking about legacy. Y'all know who John H. Johnson is? Ebony magazine. He said, I want to make sure that young people know that they can not only be an employee, but they can be an employer. Yeah. And so he gave Howard the money to go out and find someone who would be chair of entrepreneurship. And they said, nobody who's in academia, somebody who has a couple of bruises and scars and can tell the story. And they called me. And I said, what? They said, well, just send your resume. I was like, resume? What a resume? And you know what? I sat down to make a resume. Do that sometime for yourself, whether you're looking for a job or not. You know what that will do? It will remind you of all the things that you have accomplished. You know, first generation college grad, that's who I was. And I went back and said, you did that. You got to own it. You did that. Oh, my God. You got that. You got that. So I'm at Howard University. I get to be in DC 3 days a week and try to encourage the next generation of entrepreneurs. And more than anything, I have to help most of them deal with people like y'all, me too, who, you know, they want to create an app. And you're like, an app, I'm apt to go upside your head if you don't get out and get a good job. A lot of what I have to do is encourage them and hold them up, because I know me, and I know y'all are just like me, and these young people want to own a food truck. Food truck? We're trying to get them into corporate America and all that path that we all went for. They could care less. Have a different view of what success looks like. And we're talking about owning your success. You got to define your success first. And then once you define it, you can't let anybody else give you some cookie cutter description of what it looks like, right? Because what rocks my world may feel like a rock in your shoe, and that's a good thing. Sometimes women show up at the bed and breakfast and they go, they go, so is Monique gonna be here? I'm like, I am Monique. Oh, and then they go back and they say, I have followed your career. I've been inspired by you. And I can't believe you just unclogged my toilet. I said, believe it, sister girl. This is called small business. It's called making it work. I'm going to end with one last thing, and I feel so blessed to share it with you all today. I take it as an omen. Y'all play those games with yourselves? I do all the time. I tell myself, if you can finish this by XYZ time, then this will happen. I promise myself something good. You know, I looked at this. And I kept reading, Own your success. Own your future. Own your happiness. Success, future, happiness. So I'm proud to let you guys know that I just signed a deal with Lionsgate. Y'all know Lionsgate, they do. And they just sold a television show based on me and my business. Now, wait a second. It's a reality show. Don't get upset. Now, I know you're mad, Mary. She's like, I don't want to see you act like they act on Housewives. I don't want to see you. I'm like, you would never see that. I am not going to throw a bottle, and I am not going to throw shade. Just not who I am. But I am going to help you come into my real world of being an entrepreneur. I am going to help you come into my real world of raising a 25-year-old girl child who is just as strong-minded as I am and wants to do her own thing, and I want her to understand that you have my last name. You're the only one with my last name that I gave life to. And see, if your last name is Trump, guess what? You work for the Trump Corporation, right? So why don't you understand what I've set up for you? Why don't you understand that you are my legacy? And why don't you understand that you not only have responsibility to me, but to the child that you will now have? We got to get there. Yeah, we got to get there. So the show, we just had to change the name, but I don't know what the new name is because I didn't like what they said. But August 5th, we debut. Guess what? OWN, the OWN Network.